Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey everyone, welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV. This is the Daredevil show. I'm your host, Jesse Klein. We're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4, Rabbit in a Snowstorm, and In the Blood. And I've got a fantastic panel here for you guys. Starting at the end, we got...
Hello guys, I'm Jamie Elias, and you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Jamie S. Elias.
I'm sorry, I'm losing it. Like you were trying to say like fan panel,
yeah,
I think, but it came out Fapple.
I said Fapple. Guys,
I'm Zach Wilson
Fapple.
making Fapple jokes.
Nobody's fappling over here.
No.
I almost said something a lot worse. My name is Mark Donica. You can follow me on Twitter at SoapboxMark. I'm going to be in chat as well as on Twitter if you have any questions or concerns about the show.
And I'm Jesse Klein. You can find me at JessKlein1. And folks, we have a super special guest joining us today for the show. He is
alive.
He is alive here for the show. He plays Anatoly on the show. He is a prolific video game voiceover artist and a really great and prolific actor. It's Gideon Emery. Gideon, say hello to everyone.
Nice to be here.
Hey, you have your head, which is fantastic.
I do, and I have a glass of cold, refreshing Frapple.
Yes, this show is brought to you by Frapple.
New sponsor.
Awesome. Guys, we're talking about episode 3, Rabbit in a Snowstorm. It opens super graphically. What are we thinking about that? The cold open. Yeah.
Half point.
A half point. We're
That's what I'm
counting that
saying.
as a half point for an eye injury.
1/2, y'all.
Okay.
Started it
Yeah,
off
technically
strong.
an eye was injured. Probably both.
Yeah,
I
probably
feel
2
like
eyes.
anything in the face is half of a point.
It gets a half, so we're
If
up to
it's graphic.
3.5
if it's
eye
like a graphic,
injuries.
like a bowling ball to the face or a car door.
But
to
it's
the
not.
face,
It's
gets a
nothing
half.
like the eye injury later in the episode.
No,
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've blocked that out.
Goodness gracious.
No, it was a great opening because it just like launches you into this story. Like, who are either of these people? What is happening and
Yeah.
why is it happening?
Yeah, it felt very Tarantino to me because there was like a flashback within it where it was like him getting the gun and saying, "I wish I had a revolver," and he's like, because I don't want it to jam. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, this won't jam," and then of course it jams. Yeah,
But that was a great way to connect us to Fisk and the Russians, and by seeing the guy that we know still beaten to hell, and it was also interesting to see how proficient of a fighter he was.
Yeah.
Like,
oh man,
he wasn't just punching, he was dodging, reversing, any sort of thing for him to not get hit, he was doing professionally.
Totally. And just like you said, like that's building up Fisk for us. And this whole episode is pretty much about building up Fisk, I feel like. And
Yeah.
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. But this is just like you see this amazing kind of assassin come in and you're just like assassin in the sense that he's actually a real person. I like that fact too though. But you see him come in and he beats the crap out of like 5 different guys and you're like, whoa, this guy's working for Fisk and he won't even say his name, and so it builds him up even more in your head. I thought it was
but
really important.
when we meet him, he's like super sweet.
Oh,
he's like
totally.
really sweet to the lady, and he just wants to go bowling. And it turns out he's a murderer.
Sociopathic.
Well, I
Don't
mean,
trust
he says
anybody.
it's not his first rodeo, and like the thing is, like, what makes this guy such a psychopath is that in retrospect, every part of that conversation, that whole scene was calculated. Like going up and being very nice to the woman there is like a piece of his story because the nice guy isn't attacking anybody.
Yeah.
Totally. She was set up as a witness. Like he knew what he was going to do,
Yep.
and he was just setting her up to be his backstory.
And he knew to provoke them.
Yeah.
Like it's gross. That's it's slimy, and it's like I don't want to look at him.
Yeah, I thought the character Healy was really interesting. I thought he was the way they were setting up, I thought he was going to be like maybe a main physical antagonist for Daredevil throughout the rest of the series. But it turns out I was not quite right about that.
That didn't happen.
Awesome. The show is just like super brutal and like really like gritty and like gross. Like I was gonna throw this to Gideon. Like when you're in some very brutal scenes, like what is it like being on set, like having that kind of brutality brought to you?
Well, it's not real.
Yeah.
So
Wait.
there is the no.
Spoiler
I mean,
alert.
How long did it take for your scars to heal?
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think it's. I mean, I've been beaten out a lot on screen from playing baddies and stuff, and I've. Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, we'll get into it later, obviously. But yeah, fight scenes. I mean, fantastic choreography. Philip Silvera, amazing. Fight choreographer, coordinator.
Yeah.
He and his stunty team do amazing stuff. Really, I mean, I think they took. I don't know what their brief was, but I mean, me just like as a viewer, if you will.
Yeah.
It feels like they're like, when you see fight scenes in other shows, let's say they're this long. On our show, we want them to be this long, because it's really like, man, these guys are taking so much punishment, So it's fantastic because it's not just like boom, boom, okay, and we're done.
Yeah.
It's just brutal and unforgiving, and you see it all as well. I think, which is nice. Yeah.
The camera is unrelenting; it never pulls away from the violence. And another thing I've noticed with the show is like usually in like big fight shows. It's usually like multiple set pieces that they go through, and it's like through like a building or something like that. In this show, it's like just one location that's usually really tiny. Like it's never like a big fight. Like it's usually a very intimate fight where there isn't a lot of room to like move around or get around.
It's not about throwing somebody through a wall or I mean, occasionally we like in like earlier like the fight between Daredevil and. Rance. He did get thrown through a window, but that's sort of the exception.
Yeah.
Everything else has been like we start here and it finishes here.
Yeah.
It feels real. It feels like a real fight rather than something that you'd see on a big screen.
Yeah. You say you play a lot of bad guys. Is it more fun to play a bad guy?
It's always more fun to play a bad guy. I mean, the writing's usually more juicy for the bad guys kind of thing, because the good guys, the heroes and stuff, get to be fairly straight for the most part. This is an exception, I think, because there is, and certainly where you have a hero that comes with some baggage or troubled, there's more stuff to delve into. But yeah, bad guys are always fun to play. It's nice when the bad guy lives a little longer, obviously, but I can wish.
It is Marvel. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
This is true.
You could come back as the Headless Horseman or Jack-o'-lantern. You come back as Jack-o'-lantern.
We cut away. We cut away to his to my. Well, sort of torso and everything from the neck down.
Yeah.
And that could just be the sort of moment where everyone sort of walked away and
You just get up.
and then just and the new ones.
Just a baby who pops out.
But we're jumping ahead in episode.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, we'll get back to episode 3, Rabbit in a Snowstorm.
Let's talk about them in court.
Well, we're gonna get to that, but first we're gonna get to Ben Ulrich, who we meet on the Pure, talking to an old Italian mobster. And I don't know about you guys, I'm a bit of a Marvel nerd. Seeing Ben Ulrich on the on the big screen, I was gonna say main stage.
Same.
Life's a main stage. But seeing him on the big screen was a huge deal for me. Like in the storytelling of what goes on in Hell's Kitchen, there's a holy trinity, if you will, and that's Matt/Daredevil, that's Kingpin, and that's Ben Ulrich. Like these are the 3 big characters in Marvel. Like Ben kind of represents the moral center of the city and like the possibility for goodness in the city. And so like to see him on screen was a huge deal for me. And he's a great character. Like it's so interesting.
He's also just one of the like Marvel's like go-to on the ground reporters. Like for any major event. Like the Civil War books had a great I think it was Road to Civil War was just like Ben Ulrich, like what does the newspaper have to say about everything that's going on?
I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
And like I was just as bigger mythology, it's like, oh, so Ben Ulrich's there. What about Phil Ulrich.
Yeah, exactly.
He becomes like the Hobgoblin and Green Goblin at different points.
Yeah, it's super exciting for me. It's also this scene was really interesting to me because it was kind of about like the changing of the guard of what Hell's Kitchen is becoming to from what it was, where it's like this old school Italian style mafia guy. I'm gonna say he's Magia. I don't know if he's Magia. I'm gonna say he's a Magia guy, talking about how he's moving because things are getting too brutal in Hell's Kitchen, and that guys are getting offed all over the place. And my favorite line was, "It used to be when you killed a man, you sent his wife flowers. Now you send her to the grave too." I thought that was a really awesome kind of like representation of what's going on in Hell's Kitchen right now.
Totally. That could even parallel with him sitting in his office talking about stories that he used to write versus stories that now he's being forced to write.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really great parallel to that. Like, this is what Hell's Kitchen used to be, and now this is what it's evolving into, and neither one of those characters like what it's evolving into.
Yeah.
But Ben is actually trying to do something to kind of stop it, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of has to do with the opening credits. I know we talked about it last time, but it's literally the city is covered in blood. We just got a note from the engineer.
Just play it off.
Yeah, sure. Literally, the city is covered in blood, so it's about kind of this changing world that is happening in Hell's Kitchen. What was our note?
It's just
Okay.
You're supposed to play those things off.
Okay, fine.
That's why it's a note.
And why I
want
was
a
off
note.
camera.
Okay, fine. I don't know anything what's going on.
You know everything about Ben.
I do know a lot about Ben.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think about this introduction to Ben Ulrich?
I mean, it's good. It was good. One more like little detail.
Yeah.
If you notice, he's working for the Daily Bulletin.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And not the Daily Planet.
Because
Bugle.
Or Bugle, sorry. Planet. Whoops.
Get out.
No, I mean, at the time, if you like look back when they had to have written and shot this
Yeah.
episode, the Sony deal for Spider-Man was not in place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they definitely would have made it the Daily Bugle. Because they
Yeah.
would have just they would have loved
Yeah.
to start that process now.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to like go retconning.
I think he could easily lose his job at the beginning of season 2.
And he moves over to the Daily Bugle.
We're going to wait for that for news and gossip, but just to let you guys know, season 2 was announced, 2016. It's going to be the same crew, but different showrunners.
The same, two of the writers, I don't know the names yet.
Yeah.
News and Gossip was later,
Yeah.
guys.
What? I was just saying
no.
it as a thing to keep people tuned for later when we talk about it.
There's commitments, I don't think people expected this.
No,
So
not
everyone
at all.
was sort of like preparing for the next thing. I'm not sure what.
So like while they're shooting Daredevil season 2, they'll probably also be shooting like Iron Fist or
Power Man is first.
Oh, so Power Man.
Yeah.
So Luke Cage. So that's awesome that they'll just be they're just making more Marvel stuff in the Marvel world. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Good luck catching up on all of it.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. Quit your day jobs. Just watch Marvel all the time. Yeah, we follow Ben. We see him go back to his daily, what was the name
Bulletin.
of the Daily Bulletin. And we see him talking with his editor, and it's about how like the stories were changing. You were talking about that. They want him to cover what color people would like the subway to be,
exactly.
and like get a pull for it. But we see in the background a couple of sweet Easter eggs.
Super cool.
Yeah, you guys were talking about it earlier.
Well, what I'll give one of them was just the Battle of New York, which is obviously the Avengers. I thought that was really cool. And then there was another one, which was...
Oh, it was the Duel of Harlem, right?
Yeah.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk.
Harlem
The
Terror?
the Incredible Hulk.
Terror in Harlem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Terror and Hulk.
Or I think it's Harlem Terror. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
But those things are nice. Like,
Yeah.
like just having this world that they're creating, and making the world open like that, like just kind of forcing us to remember that, oh yeah, like this is a part of
Set
a
design.
bigger world. Yeah, good set design.
Yeah.
Subtlety.
Yeah.
Gideon, I'm curious because you were on set for all this. Was there anyone like from like Marvel corporate, like or like Joss Whedon or Kevin Feige, like running around the set with
There
that
were-
kind of stuff?
There are important people around. Yeah, it's very hands on. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They've taken a lot of care and yeah.
What does it feel like to be on a show that's kind of part of this bigger world? Earlier you were saying don't ask me any questions about like the universe or anything like that, but what does it feel like to kind of be a part
when
of...
I said that was like, don't say that when we're on.
Yeah. What does it feel like to be part of a more established world like that has like all of this kind of background information for you?
Well, I mean, it's not like the character I played is, coming from, with a whole lot of history in that universe,
Sure.
So I'm kind of, but I mean, it's it's exciting to be a part of something that is this big. But I mean, I don't think I had a sense of how huge and far-reaching, Daredevil would be. And also, I mean, it's also, you still don't know. Everything's a grand experiment, I think.
Yeah.
I think I hadn't seen any dailies or footage at all until I saw, the first little trailer come out. So it was, and then to see, like forums and stuff, how people have really embraced, Daredevil and Charlie, So it's that I'm really excited about, but it was seeing stuff of how billboards and street art and stuff, as part of the marketing, but in Paris, and it's in Berlin, and it's in London, and it's here, and it's in Spain, and it's in New York, and it's Times Square, and it's wow, they are. I mean, forget going to town. It's global. You know? And it's exciting. It's exciting that you can do that. Yeah. So
Definitely.
Awesome. That's really cool to just kind of be part of something that big, I bet. Well, let's get on to Matt and Foggy, their story going on. We see them kind of having this argument that I feel like is probably going to happen throughout the entire show of whether it's to do the right thing or to take money.
Well, it's interesting because they sort of reversed position.
Yeah.
I think Matt totally convinced Foggy, yeah, we should only be taking cases of people who are, at least, mostly innercent.
Yeah.
Or, innocent guilty with an explanation.
Yeah. Well, we get later on we get the butcher story. I think it's in episode 4. Yeah, the butcher story. But, we kind of see, this kind of dynamic. And when Matt comes in and he's all bruised up, and they ask him what happened, he says he fell down. He was
I mean, that's legit. He's blind. I mean, we know he's really he doesn't need to worry about it, and he can just run and jump off rooftops and chain link fences if he needs to, but everyone else is oh yeah, he'll bump into a door.
They write it off so easily because they don't know.
Yeah.
Totally.
They don't know what you do in the privacy of your own home.
And what are you gonna do? Question a blind guy?
It's
did you really fall? Did you really fall, Matt? Really? Did you fall?
And Foggy's trying to convince him to get a dog. Yeah, we get that dog talk. Who doesn't like dogs?
Which makes it even more wow, how often does he come in with a big shiner on his face?
Totally.
Would it be a devil dog?
Devil dog?
No.
I'm excited for
Hockey
the mashups
fans.
later.
Probably.
Oh my gosh.
And who walks in but old Wesley?
I literally wrote this MFer in all caps.
He didn't say MFer when he wrote
No, I
it
didn't.
down.
This is a family show.
Yeah.
Is it? Allegedly.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be for the content, but jeez.
Old Wesley Cakes walks in.
Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, we left him last time with the drop of these guys could be interesting. Start a file.
Yeah, and already they're coming in, and when Matt asks his name, he says, "I am Confederated Global Investments," and doesn't give his name.
Not sketchy at all.
No, not sketchy at all. He wants them to be on retainer with them, and offers a check to Foggy, in which Foggy's eyes get cartoonishly big. His tongue rolls out of his mouth and rolls onto the floor.
Heart's beating out of his chest.
Yeah, exactly.
So many zeros.
Yes, so many zeros. Matt is not happy with it.
Well, not at first. I don't know. I thought this was really important too because later on we see he was at the beginning of the episode. He was in front of the church.
Yeah.
I think that's really important that they keep like interjecting that into episodes because I feel like he's this vigilante with a conscience, right? And so like he wants to do right by the legal system, but sometimes the legal system fails, and so he takes matters into his own hands. Whether or not he believes what he's doing is absolutely justified, we don't know yet. But sometimes I feel like he feels bad a little bit. Maybe not bad, but
He's
just
a guilty Catholic.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't be sitting in front of a church if he wasn't. And so I just thought the whole case was really interesting because he did provide a legitimate defense for Matt Healy under the law, but it's this inner conflict with him because he knows he's a guilty man and he knows that what he's doing right now is getting somebody off basically that is completely guilty of what they've done and snowing the entire jury, even after he took away a hung juror and it was replaced and then that person became the next big conflict. I don't know. I thought it was really important that this was something that was a main part of the episode.
Yeah, I think that conflict is kind of a main part of who Daredevil is in general, is like doing what's right versus doing what is effective. And I think that's a fight that Daredevil has quite a bit in his stories.
Yeah. Well, this is what I was really looking forward to with this show, is that we get this like big law scene that's just like really powerful. Like he's in the court, like fighting a case, gives this epic speech, gets this guy off, and then the next thing he does is chase him down an alley and beat the crap out of him.
I think, I'm sorry to cut in, but I think what's really interesting as part of that kind of conflict and stuff is also, by playing clearly, Wesley is playing some kind of a game. He doesn't know what it is just yet, but then seeing that, okay, I have to kind of be the pawn in Wesley's strategy in order to get access to he who shall not be named. So I think it's the lesser of two evils, sort of, in him doing that. And also as well, he's strictly a lawyer there, sort of. It's very just a legal case and stuff. But then, exactly, allaying his conscience perhaps a little afterwards.
Totally. But he lets himself be manipulated in order to pretty much get his ultimate goal. I think that's...
Well, he does follow Wesley through the sound of his watch. And
awesome sound design.
Which is a great sound design because it's like a real intimidating sound all of a sudden, where he he can hear that clicking wherever he is now. He's like zeroed in on that noise.
It's like seeing somebody's face that you just happen to see like a week later and go, wait a minute. So instead of that, he recognizes the watch, and the watch is how he knows he's here. And we see, once they reintroduce the new juror, he listens for it, doesn't hear it, and it's like, all right, it's all good. And then when the jury comes back out with the decision, and everybody's just like really beaten, and then he hears the watch, he's like, damn it, what did he do?
I know, he knows.
So he got to that old lady.
Foggy too. Okay, Foggy is like my favorite character in this entire episode, just because we see Foggy come out as somebody who's not like just comedic relief or like somebody who's kind of goofy or a sidekick. He comes out and he's like a badass lawyer. He opens up with this argument that's super intelligent, and we're like, okay, Foggy, like holding it down for yourself. Super pumped about Foggy this episode.
We get why he's there.
Yeah, he's a legit lawyer. I wrote Matt and Foggy lawyer the crap out of this. Like they did a great job. We're getting a little ahead of it because after this we see them kind of interview our old buddy, what was his name? Mr. Healy. And we see Healy like just super confident and is getting ahead of them. Like they're unexpected. He knows all the lawyer jargon, says this is my first trip to the rodeo. We don't like Healy, do we?
What sounds better is
what sounds better is
one of my favorite and least favorite lines of the whole show. It's like, what a d-bag.
He kind of thinks they're in on it, though. I think that's why he says it. He thinks that they're just like, well, what sounds better? And then he realizes, like, they're not in on this. Actually, and like tries to sociopathic.
Well, he knows who hired them.
Yeah.
So he knows, like, these are my mob lawyers.
Just know the check will clear.
He doesn't realize that these are, like, there to be the clean lawyers.
It's such an interesting performance actually to watch because you don't typically see that, where he's like, okay, he's playing the one thing and now he's all innocent and stuff, and it's like, hey, and there's like, but you know what, and then it's almost threatening because it's like, listen, man, you're working for the man, you know. So it's
Absolutely.
it was just really interesting for me to watch as a fellow performer, going like, man, there's so many like layers there as he sort of changes gear and stuff. And
He did a great job.
And we even hear him say that he doesn't want to have the 180 date. He wants to go straight to trial, which means he already knows that as soon as he gets in front of a jury, he's getting let off.
Yeah.
Like he knows exactly what's going. He wants to get deposed. He wants the jury to be there to see him because he knows that, you know, the guy who we can't name, his pockets are so deep that there will be they will find a way to make sure he gets off.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then we go back and we see some stuff with Ben again. We see his wife and we see him dealing with this kind of really sad story. He's fighting for insurance, which is a thing that I think a lot of people have had issues with in the last few years. So I think it's a great way to kind of ground this show. His wife's sick and they're going to kick her out of the hospital, and he's getting an extension, which I thought was really powerful and interesting as well.
Totally.
Yeah. Did they say what we don't get to know what she said, but something that like it keeps her down and like basically asleep for like 23 hours a day
seemingly.
Yeah, there was a line where it's like she was up for a half hour and was talking about you. She had a good day. Like
I'm totally guessing because I'm very blind to this side of the Marvel world. I have no clue what's wrong with her at all. For everybody out there, no idea. Is it a psycho? Is it like something internally? Like, does she have something wrong? Is she in like a psych ward, or is it actually physical?
I think it's a physical
disease.
disease.
Like a physical disease,
and I think this is what's great about this is that it's not. They're not like miring it down in some kind of supernatural Marvel universe stuff. It's just a very real situation that like. Yeah, insurance is a nightmare. I had to be on the phone for like a total of like 20 hours just to change my address.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. That really happened.
I believe it.
That's insane. And there was a thing that kind of we missed on when he was talking with his editor, where his editor's talking about how people are making twice as much as they are sitting at home in their underwear writing for blogs.
They make it totally relevant
Yeah.
to today.
Modernize the whole newspaper industry.
And made it really interesting because like now it's like, whoa, what is the Marvel universe if there are, and I think a lot of stuff in the comic books have touched on this, where it's like, what is the Marvel universe now that there's, you know, blogs and everyone has a phone that can take high definition video. Like
Want to see Spider-Man here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I took a picture of him the other day.
If Marvel's was like a series of blog posts, I think it would have a completely different meaning.
That's true.
But it is cool how they are modernizing it, though. I think that, I mean, obviously you can't do too much modernizing to where it would make it a different kind of feel, but I feel like it's making it relevant for people who aren't so in tune with the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Just as somebody who, like, I understand the Marvel Universe, but I haven't read the comic books. I'm doing all my research as the show's going. But I think it's cool. It makes it very relevant for people that are just watching and are like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of real life, you know? Like, it's not like every story is like a breaking newspaper story, because it's not real anymore.
Extra.
Yeah, it's not that anymore.
Well, that's the thing, is like the Marvel universe has to adjust, and they do this in the comic books as well. They adjust as like the world evolves. So like, yeah, the newspaper, the Daily Bugle is huge to Peter Parker's storyline.
Exactly,
But in the modern day, that's just not a thing.
Yeah.
People don't read those anymore. But like in the comics, what they're doing is they gave J. Jonah Jameson a news anchor job, so that he's like, because that's the equivalent. That's like where he would be
and
if you put that character. Yeah, well, but like just it's what they're doing with Hell's Kitchen. Okay, Hell's Kitchen is not a dangerous area, but after New York. The incident in New York, maybe it would be.
Yeah.
And that's like the way that you can make what you need to accomplish in each story fit within this universe. So I think that we may see that sort of stuff evolve as we see what Ben Urich does. As he has to adjust. Like, maybe he can't publish that kind of story in the Daily Bulletin. Maybe he does have to start the Urich blog.
Oh, that'd be really cool if he just started his own kind of like hard-hitting blog where it's now he's like outside of the editor's grasp, and he can just start saying and doing the stories he wants.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
So I just never expect hard hitting and blog to be in the same sentence. It's still something to get used to. It's something to get used to.
It's not just people talking about high school anymore.
I went to Pizza Rev today, and this is what I ordered.
Brought to you by Pizza Rev and Frapple.
Now available at all Pizza Rev locations.
One thing that I thought was really interesting in this episode, I'm curious how you guys felt, was this like hint at Karen's dark backstory.
Totally.
Which is like
I cheated.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In the comics, she was into like drugs and stuff.
She was into drugs, and she was into
porn,
some
right?
adult industry stuff.
Porn.
Yeah.
We could say porn.
Yeah.
We can. We have adult entertainment shows here on AfterBuzz, or on our sister network, the Popcorn Talk Network.
Okay.
So we can talk about it.
So yeah, she was into porn. She had kind of like a dark background.
Yeah.
And a lot of her story is about like getting better and like getting on the straight and narrow and fighting those kind of devils that she has in her background instead of the devil that she has in her life.
I'm excited to see that come to fruition with her, if there's any character development between her and whoever her love interest is. I don't know who it may be one moment in the show, but I think that'll be very interesting.
Hashtag Daredevil.
Hashtag Daredevil, please. But that'll be really interesting to see how that works for both of them.
And while we're talking about Karen, we might as well get to what happened with her during this episode, where she meets with a representative of the global conglomerate, of the subsidiary, of the blah, 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 the guys who we can't name company. And they're offering her a non-disclosure agreement as well as a buyout so that she can't disclose any more information about what happened for her when she was working.
Publicly.
She cannot publicly disclose any information.
Well, you're not, according to the agreement, you're not supposed to tell anybody.
Yeah.
You're supposed to pretend it didn't happen.
Yes.
But, of course, if you
NDAs are no joke.
If you're just talking out loud about it and there happens to be a reporter at the table next to you at the diner...
With a tape recorder.
Is that really your fault?
Not at all. Please. People rant and rave all over New York City.
And we see her then meet with Miss Fisher.
Yeah, who's leaving the city, for as far as we can tell.
And she took the buyout as well.
Yeah.
That was a real kind of heartbreaking scene to kind of, again, I really like how they're characterizing Karen. She's very like driven, and like she has such a real idea of what right and wrong is. I think they're really giving her a really interesting character. She wants people to know about what happened.
I liked with the settlement lawyer, we saw a lawyer who was under the foot of Fisk and what, excuse me, I'm going to be dead now. We saw a lawyer that is under that foot and what they do and how they act, as opposed to our boys.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful way to go, please don't turn into that. Please. Like, we know you won't, but like, you're reminded of how terrible and overreaching that sort of a job can be.
Absolutely. Before we move on from Karen really quick, I know that you did an episode on True Blood. I was wondering if you ever worked with Deborah and Wool, or that show's pretty dark too. How was it like working on that kind of set as opposed to like Daredevil?
I didn't have much dark stuff. Although I mean my character was up to no good. It was sort of insinuated after that thing, but I was in like the in the bar diner type. So it was cool. It was just super easy and comfortable, to be honest. Yeah, because I mean there was no like supernaturally bangs. So yeah.
Totally, just curious.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, let's get to the end of the trial and I just have to point out that Daredevil roughs up the guy who's been intimidating the juror.
Juror number 8.
And it's kind of he looks like the character that Leonardo DiCaprio plays, but isn't actually Leonardo DiCaprio. He just looks like a roughed up Leonardo DiCaprio.
Down on his luck, Leo.
Yeah. But we then see both Matt and Foggy kind of lawyer the heck out of this. I'm so glad they avoided a Blind Justice reference, which they almost do in every Daredevil comic. Justice is blind. We get it. He's blind. Great.
Yeah, and he used a different joke. He used the like. There's a clear line, sort of like porn, like bringing it back to porn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Never thought I'd say that in my life. But his whole closing statement. We already talked about it a bit, but we could have seen. That I think we could have also seen, like in the end of the first episode, where it was half him training, half the stuff going on in the background. It illustrated exactly what he is and what he's doing, and we see it in his actions. And it was kind of like an aside, like you used to see in a Shakespearean play for the audience, just to be like, yeah, blurry, I like it. Just keep talking, please. Whatever. It was,
do you think he brought it back to porn too because of the way that juror was? I'm bringing it back to porn again, guys. What up? No, because she was in a sex tape essentially, and that's what they were doing to kind of blackmail her. I thought that was like a really subtle.
I didn't catch that. That's really cool.
Well, I thought that when he said that, I thought that he looked at Wesley.
Oh. Yeah.
I always forget his name because he doesn't say it ever. So, but I thought he kind of glanced over there and was like, "Oh, that's like a really subtle way to kind of bring in, like, hey, I kind of know what you're up to."
That's interesting. And then we get a hung jury. That jury's hung. It's kangaroo court. It's a hung jury. Healy, like he thought, gets off scot-free.
But not enough.
Not from Blind Justice. There's again like a really cramped fight scene right next to a car. Like they just fight around a car, basically, in that entire fight scene. Daredevil wins, and then he also loses.
Oh my gosh! Can we talk about number 4, guys? We're actually at 4.5. 4.5. That was so. I was reading the whole episode. I was like, man, everybody said there was going to be some kind of crazy eye injury. I haven't seen anything yet. Oh. I was so shocked. I actually this is super dark. I kind of giggled because I was like, this is it. This is the eye injury that everybody's told me about.
Away.
Sorry, I giggled and then I just stopped breathing. But it was so intense. That was such an intense scene. And then at the very end, you see this super confident. The whole time he's been this sociopathic, just really dark character quiver at the idea that this he who shall not be named.
Oh no, he names him. We can say it.
Wilson Fisk. Wilson Fisk. I know. Yeah. Well, he quivers that now he's given up this name, and he was like, I'm gonna kill myself rather than see what he does to me, which is such an important that. For the next episode, that builds it up so incredibly. It's such an impactful scene.
Makes an example. He doesn't want to be an example to be made out of him. It's like, they'll kill me. They'll kill everyone I've ever loved.
But if he's already dead,
they can't kill him, and so there's no example.
And they'll never know who gave up the name. It's awesome to see a character so confident, so haughty, so full of himself, and an amazing physical specimen, having an amazing back and forth with Matt, just immediately break down.
Yeah.
And that is how strong the influence of Wilson Fisk is.
Totally.
I mean, you try keeping a secret when you're being slowly stabbed multiple times.
Throat-ish.
It also begs the question, who's keeping spikes around Hell's Kitchen like that?
It's instead of barbed wire, it's cheaper.
Yeah, it was so low to the ground for barbed wire.
I think there might have been another level below that people they didn't want to jump into.
Tall.
Yeah. And then
maybe they're giants.
It was Dikembe Mutombo.
Things we reference.
And then we see Wilson Fisk, Mr. Kingpin himself.
Man, oh man.
We haven't said that yet.
I know. Well, no, but he's known as the Kingpin in the Marvel universe.
I know. I know. Yeah. It's just I'm curious to see when we're going to see that. We get a ton more of him, though.
Yeah, in the next episode. But we see him in front of the white painting, and we see the origin of Vanessa telling him the joke, a rabbit in a snowstorm.
Yep.
And then we go on to the next episode. It was a weird kind of fade out ending. And before we go on to the next episode, In the Blood, I just want to remind you guys to find us on iTunes and YouTube. and Twitter. Rate and review us. If you like the show, please let us know. If you have any comments, anything to say, please let us know. We are all really active on iTunes and YouTube. We try and talk and interact with you. If you have reviews, we always read them and listen to you guys. So please let us know.
Yeah, it's how we get awesome guests like Gideon into the studio. Is your guys' iTunes reviews really do help. And so we want to give you guys some shout outs. So Joyu Cuisine says 5 stars, awesome job. I'm so excited to hear all your opinions about the series. It's really nice to hear the excitement in all of your voices about the show. It makes me really excited to watch and then listen to your recaps and theories. You guys are great. Mop Jockey says 5 stars, great review. There's a bunch. We got 8 reviews off the first episode. You guys are awesome, but I'm gonna have to blow through them because we don't have time. Mop Jockey says great show. Tim, some call me. Says the art of not binge watching. Basically, because like some people are like, you guys,
believe me,
It
hurts us a lot more than it hurts.
Trending on a waterfall.
Trending Daddy says AfterBuzz Devils 5 stars. Fun recap. TFC Godfather, amazing Daredevil companion podcast. Thank you, TFC Godfather. TEW04, great podcast. Suppy Chan 369, awesome. Bumblebee Tuna, best. And then just, yes, they are.
Archie Bumblebee Tuna.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. And now we're going to get on to episode Blood. Or episode 4.
That's what it should be called.
Episode
It
4.
should be called episode Blood.
In the Blood.
In the 4.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a companion piece to our guest here. We start off in Serbia.
Siberia.
Siberia, sorry. I wrote Serbia, but it was Siberia.
Damn, Serbia.
It's the Gulag.
Yeah.
I was like, that's some...
I wrote Siberia. I said Serbia.
It's a gulag in Ibiza.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some techno music in the background, and as it fades, we move in.
Some college students throwing up in the...
Oh my gosh.
Holds up a shank, it's a glow stick.
Yeah. In this real dark kind of origin story for our kind of through line characters in this episode. Yeah. The brothers, Vladimir and Anatoly.
I thought their story was so cool.
Yeah, same here.
The beginning of that set, everything, it was so gruesome. Like, how did you feel about after you watched that scene and you're like, literally we used a rib and we shanked our way out of prison?
Yeah.
Like, how did that go for you?
You know, it was interesting shooting that because it was dank and dark and grubby what they'd set. You know, they set there, and it was kind of like wet, and it was a little. It wasn't kind of like, you know, it's kind of like it's all clean, and then okay, here's a little place we're working, and everything's fine and stuff. Like it was just creepy getting in there, sort of thing. And then I was like, you know, I look like crap because you know I've got to have like makeup on and stuff and whatever. And they took ages doing the tats and stuff, and it all looks badass. And they were dragging me in each time, and you know, I felt a little bit like crap, and they sort of dropped me in there, and I'm sort of hurling myself onto the ground, going like, oh, okay, it's not a spongy ground. And I'm all for like throwing myself around on set and stuff, you know, and I'll let my head kind of go, and then sort of after a while I've got, you know, a bit of a migraine in the works, and I'm like, yeah, I probably could have cheated it for the last couple of weeks. But yeah, cool, nice, dark, dim. I mean, you know, and camera's down low, and it's like, I don't know what they can see, and then we were waiting for, you know, Jeffrey the rat to do his business, you know, and I was like, that's kind of cool. You know, you got like a rat wrangler.
Yeah.
That's it, you know? Yeah. He had a name. I don't know. No, I mean, the wrangler definitely had a name. I don't know about the rat. I'm assuming the rat had a name.
That was a big rat.
It was a big rat.
That was a
It was a
huge
big
rat.
rat.
Hollywood rat.
And he's chill. He's a confident rat because the idea was, right, as we'll call him Jeffrey, whatever his name is, as Jeffrey comes in, as I get thrown down, or he hears the jailer coming or whatever, unlocking the door, you know, the rat and goes off and does his thing, you know, disappears into the shadows, but he's that confident, ballsy rat. So he wouldn't move. He would just stay there, like, you know, nibbling away in the corpse and stuff. So it took like a few takes to get the rat to actually like, no, you're scared of this. It's like, oh, I know, yeah, I'm not a really tough guy. Okay, I get it.
I usually play a tough guy rat.
You had to get in the role.
Are normal rats usually scared of a door like that? It's no big deal. I don't know what you guys talking
Excuse
about.
me.
What's my
I know what I'm
motivation?
doing.
I don't know why the American rat was in. I set that up very badly in Siberia, but yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I feel like all rats are American, probably.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what that means. Send me your hate mail.
Send me a rat mail.
Yeah.
Specifically, I chose him to be from Brooklyn. I don't know why.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we took to it.
It's pretty much just any voice
Makes
I see
sense.
lines up from Brooklyn.
And then we start immediately with a guy getting thrown onto the roof of a car.
Yeah.
Don't even want to talk about rib shank?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a
what the
rib
heck?
shank. Yeah.
I learned something new today. If you're in prison and you need a weapon,
Hopefully
you
somebody
can,
dies.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can rip out another guy's rib.
Yeah, and just have a stabbing tool.
Just have a stabbing.
In the rib. But I thought that was so cool. This show, the things like that in this show make me so want to come back and watch even more, because it's not like, this show has taken a dark turn. Like this is a gritty, dark. We were saying family. It's not a family show. Like my kids would not watch this show. Anybody under the age of 18 probably. I'm just kidding. But
Parents would watch this show.
Yeah.
exactly. It's a pretty gritty show, and things like that scene where you see them rip a dead man's rib to shank their way out of prison. That's the reason why I keep coming back to watch the show, because I'm like, man, it sounds really dark, but it's good. The whole storyline is good. It's Marvel's taking the show to a place that Marvel hasn't really been before.
It's Shanks and eye injuries. You know, that's what keeps pulling you back.
Keeps me coming back.
Do you think in order to escape, they had to shove their rib shank into somebody's eye?
I assume so.
Gideon, where you
You know,
at?
it's a soft target.
All right.
You didn't see nothing.
Yeah.
Our resident medical
advisor.
medical professional in chat said that Oleg's skin was cut by fingers to get to the ribs, just by how the entry wound looked. So there wasn't. They forced their way in there. It was
That's
not
gross.
I mean, pulling out a rib isn't ginger in any respect, but it was.
I guess I'm picturing, like, if he's already dead, you just, like, start smashing on his ribs until one of them pokes through,
and then you tear through. Yeah.
It's dinner time, folks.
This is why you're
welcome
watching.
to Daredevil Talk.
Sorry, Jamie.
Tony Robbins.
That's gross.
So yeah, we go immediately to modern day. Anatoly is running away from Daredevil, who has thrown a guy onto the roof of his cab. That guy was probably dead, right?
No, wasn't that
when he landed.
Yeah.
And then
Was that Simeon?
No,
Was that the guy? That wasn't the guy.
No,
in the
that wasn't-
hospital.
that wasn't
Simeon
Simeon
was from
tortured.
episode 2.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that
right.
was the
That's
guy
right.
from
That's right. That's
episode
right.
2, yeah.
So your character at this point, is he afraid of the man in the mask, or is he more curious about him?
I think right now he's just got to save his
His ass.
bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean I've had the crap, kicked out of me. I will tell you that running down like that is like one continuous shot is quite something, because you've got
Oh, wow.
the guys. Did we see it? I don't know if we see it. I know we had like a whole fight sequence in shadow play going pre me popping out. I think we still see that at the top end, but like very, very quickly.
Yeah,
maybe.
it mostly starts with the guy.
But it's like
hitting the
door
thing,
open. But
yeah.
it's door open down the stairs or whatever. You don't appreciate the fact that that's a real blade.
Oh wow.
It's a real blade. It's not blunted, but it's black, so it looks like it's like. But so I'm doing that, and then I've got the cell phone, and it's and I'm wearing boots.
Yeah.
Like not like rubberized boots and stuff. So I'm like trying to go down there like a bat out of hell to escape the guy, but also get in the actor, trying not to stumble down the staircase, which is kind of easy to do when you're going down like full pelt, and not stab myself, and speak Russian the whole way. So
Yeah.
so that was an interesting just juggling act for me. That has nothing to do with narrative at all. But well, I mean, part of that is my character,
Yeah.
obviously. But
Hey, it's those kinds of facts we live for. We wouldn't
yeah.
know.
but yeah, I mean, that dude landed, man. He fell a fair, distance to land on the hood.
Yeah, and I like that they started the episode halfway through a fight, like
Awesome.
or towards the end of a fight. Like we didn't see any of that fight. We just see the very end of it. It's a really cool style to start a show with.
They trusted the audience knew what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
There was
But
a
it's
lot-
good. I mean, that's like the best kind of writing. They would say, get in late, get out early, and
Yeah.
and how cool. He's like, oh, what's happening here? Like, you, yeah.
And then the next time we see you guys, it's you and your brother in the taxi cab office area. The taxi cab. What would
The
you call
depot?
it? Yeah, the
Taxi
depot.
depot?
Yeah. kind of talking about this man in black, and that you guys are taking over this taxi business, and Wesley's kind of coming in and letting you know that you're kind of being let out of the group, the tight group of the criminals. How'd you guys feel about that? Like, these Russians who are a very intimidating group are finding out that they're not intimidating enough, basically.
Well, it's interesting. Like, when you get to know like your bad guys a little bit better, it always, in this episode, I think plays on this idea a lot. Is it becomes like you start to see their side, and you're almost like in scenes like where you're dealing with Wesley, you're like rooting for the brothers. You're like, these are the, like, we want these, and then all like, but it'll flip the instant you put Matt in the scene and you're rooting against them again. Just like we see, like, this is a little bit ahead of us, but like just like we see with Wilson, like there are parts of this episode where we're totally like empathizing with him 100%, and then we're just like, no.
And it's interesting because we see this dynamic between the brothers where you're kind of the more cautious one, and your brother is much more kind of calling Fisk by his name. And I definitely would say you're the more sympathetic brother of the two of you, just because.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I kind of, it's like Anatoly's, we've had the freaking hard life, we've had the struggle and stuff. Let's have a piece of the American pie. Let's not, slave away here, kind of thing. But the brothers unfortunately got a little too much sort of ego driven. But I mean, also we also see the fact that that's a transaction there. Now we've taken over Velez Taxi and whatnot, and so it's okay. And now there's payment to be made, kind of thing. Services rendered.
And you start getting serious about tracking down the man in black because you start talking about Simon, who got thrown off a roof and is in a coma.
He was tortured in episode 2, right?
And he was the guy who was tortured in episode 2. And in order to find out any information about the man in black, they go and visit him in the hospital. They bring flowers, which I thought was sweet. And a balloon.
This
could kill him, right?
But they also brought...
that's the scene that I want to see in the extended cut. Is like, all right, this has got to be real. Let's go to the flower shop. And then you're like, let's get a balloon. That'll probably help too. Like that extra little bit of humanizing bit of just like, I mean, flowers, that'll work, but why not? No, let's get him a balloon too. Get Wilson.
I think the brothers cared about him too, though, because the way that it was described when he was like, this is probably going to kill him, right? And he was like, he would want to die this way. It's just like, it's like a Russian thing, right? Or am I?
No, I think there's definite concern, but yeah, the pressing matter is obviously getting that information. But I think Anatoly certainly is kind of like, hey buddy, you okay, kind of thing.
Well, we kind of see that you guys are getting pressured. Wesley before is like saying, listen, this would be okay if this guy had an iron suit or a magic hammer, but it's just like one guy. Like, you guys should be able to stop one guy. So we kind of feel this pressure coming from Fisk during this entire thing, where it's like, you're gonna get pushed out. If you can't sell drugs, then you're gonna get pushed out, basically.
And that empathy was still there of like wanting them to succeed. It's just like, you guys are a little bit. I was like, yeah, come on, you can. Oh wait, they're doing human trafficking. I feel like a terrible human being. I just want you to be okay. I want you guys to succeed.
It's like, oh yeah.
Anatoly didn't know anything about that. He wasn't near those.
Thief with the heart of gold.
He just thinks
the Han Solo of
storage goodies. Yeah.
Man, oh man.
He was just in it he was just coke. Like, that's nobody's involved.
Delegation equals deniability. So
that's true. For sure.
That's kind of corporation tactic.
And so you guys find out the information you need. You find out about that there was a woman there.
Exactly where she was.
And they send out some goons to go get Claire.
Yeah.
And they taken her. Like, they full on, like, we see earlier in the show, Matt has a burner phone for her to call, and they totally just do the Taken thing where he gets the phone call and he puts the phone back up to his ear, and she's like, and the phone, and she's getting dragged away and like brutally tortured. like Claire is not in a good spot when we cut to her and there's a guy with a baseball bat.
Let alone her just opening up the back of the taxi, just totally like bloodied and roughed up in the worst way. Ugh.
Yeah.
And seeing like the struggle at that, like not like she's just being carried away, but she like is trying to fight these guys off, and there's just nothing that she can do. It hurts to watch a little bit.
It's again that real, just like we saw Karen Page when she was in prison and that guy tried to strangle her, and it was the scene that never ended. This is real life, and sometimes the women in these kinds of shows, they don't get off easy. They don't get like you got a little cut on your shoulder. It's actually, you're actually getting the crap beat out of you, and that's what makes it real, and that's what makes the Daredevil's story so important, because he comes in and he saves her, and it makes her more of a badass, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of this kind of was leading to a more #ClaireDevil.
I have that written down.
Yeah, where their talk when she's patching him up is like, well, what would happen if you came in and I was talking to someone else? And he's like, well, I've thought about that. And like I feel like there's a little #ClaireDevil going on.
Totally.
You don't just say hashtag every time.
I'm gonna say hashtag every
You
time.
do, and that's why I'm laughing. You should. It's branding.
And we see Matt using his super hearing to track her down. Basically, he hears Russian being said. He hears the name of her neighbor Santino, and he tracks down Santino and asks any details, and he says the name of the cab company. It's how he can find her.
Well, that's the thing, is like what's good is we got some limits.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like he can just hear anywhere in the city and pick out her voice. Like no, he needs to like be in the general vicinity.
Yeah.
Because in the second episode we got like there was a little bit of, or the tail end of 1 and then in 2, like the fact that he heard the little boy like getting kidnapped is like, how powerful is this guy's hearing? But this is like, okay, it's not insane levels.
No,
Yeah, and it's also not like, okay, he tunes in and now, okay, he's got the lock.
Yeah.
He's got it like, okay, we've got lock now, I can go at a leisurely pace and like, okay, I'll quicken up because it sounds like they might get close to killing her, sort of thing. So, I mean, what's great is like, I obviously I know how, he's got, and we all know ultimately he's going to save the day, but there's still that desperation is awesome because he's going along and they're like, he's lost her now, and he's like stuck in the middle of the intersection, and he's just like, and it's fantastic that it is,
absolutely.
So.
Especially, go ahead.
Hearing it go from such specific sound back to just the general noise,
it's so cool.
Excellent sound design, even more.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like, it's perfect how, I mean, New York City's huge. There's so many things, and imagine like, you remember that scene they flash back to where he's like, it's so loud, and like he's honed his ability to kind of decipher between sounds, but it's still impossible to decipher between everybody in New York City. It's a great point. Sound is amazing.
One of the things I really loved about this scene, like once he gets to the taxi company and he's like fighting, is the way that they did the lighting.
So cool.
Because he drops the lights because obviously like the darkness doesn't matter to Daredevil. But
there are cabs everywhere.
The cab lights coming on,
it's like, it's a street fight.
It paints the room in this awesome, like very directional, like there's light there, but not like
convenient.
Yeah.
I thought that entire scene was shot like a horror film. Like it reminded me of the Lost World Jurassic Park when they're running through the tall grass and just guys just kind of like just go whoop and just disappear.
And the flashlights disappear.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the dock scene from Batman Begins.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That like knocking out the lights and then like attacking from the shadows. It felt very much like that, and I say that in a good way.
Yeah. And then we see Claire brain a guy with the baseball bat.
That's their parallel though. Like she's kind of dark.
Yeah, she's a brutal character.
She is a brutal character, and then you see them sitting and talking, and it's like this organic kind of ClaireDevil going on.
#ClaireDevil. Thank you.
Yep.
But no, I think that just little things like that, or when the torture scene happened and she was like, stab him here. You're just like, what? What did you just say? I think those are really important parts.
And so while this is happening, we also get our new character.
Well, hold on.
Go
I have a wild theory to throw out related to Claire.
New hashtag.
Give it to the universe.
Because she mentions that she has an ex.
Mm-hmm.
and her ex's name is Mike.
Okay.
And on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now, we got Mike Peterson, aka Deathlock, back,
Yes.
who is estranged from his his ex-wife, but he has a kid. And it might be a stretch for there to be just like it happens to be another Mike.
You're going for yeah. Well, here's the thing. Mike is like the least popular name for a guy, so that's probably true.
Or could it Mike be like a little? Because in the comic books, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he have like an alter ego or like
An alias.
an alias, Mike Murdoch, as like his evil twin brother or whatever?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that was like a little bit of like a ha?
I think that's what they originally did.
Stretch,
that
but
for,
I'll still keep my eyes open.
I'm just saying, think about it. It's all connected.
Just like, what do you think?
I will say that they do talk about cats, and I was like, black cat? No. But so yeah. Also in this episode, we kind of see our new character and him interacting with the world. His love for art and his love for Vanessa.
He's such an important character. I'm so glad that they're making him into a main character.
Yeah. What do you guys kind of think about
like that we're not naming him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a habit.
We see Fisk. We see him interacting with Wesley. He's all business, and then he has to go ask Vanessa out, and he becomes this kind of socially awkward, like blub of a guy.
Not relatable.
Keeping Fisk as this vulnerable, vulnerable is really the best way to describe it. Character, and him being so like socially inept because and seeing him at dinner saying like, tonight I'm just a man, like is for the people who know who he is, it's kind of like, okay, what's the thing that's gonna really set him off? But it was just It was like it was sitting on a ticking time bomb. It was almost like being in Inglourious Bastards again, like in the movie theater scene, just like, when is it gonna happen? But it was beyond interesting, and we saw him at the end of the third episode, and also at dinner with his cufflink. Yeah, I noticed that's a nervous tick, and I want to know what that is.
He also just kind of like does that with his fingers every once in a while.
Just kind of.
They set him up as this very like interesting, flawed character where he is legitimately, there's like deep rooted motivation for like what he's doing.
You can tell he loves the city.
Yeah, well they have that great speech and like where I wrote it down because it was so good. I realized that this city was a part of me and I would do anything to make it a better place.
Yeah,
and if that wasn't close enough to like a Daredevil, like that line could easily have gone to Matt Murdock, and if it wasn't clear enough, they had Matt Murdock later on saying, "I'm just trying to make my city a better place."
Exactly. Yeah. By how kind of vulnerable he is and kind of questioning who he is in the world, I think that maybe the Daredevil series, and we've just seen him a little bit, but I think it might be an origin story for Kingpin.
Oh, 100, yeah.
I think by the end of the series, Kingpin is going to kind of become who he's supposed to be, and that Daredevil is kind of the person who pushes him to be that, because basically Matt Murdock is already the Daredevil. Like without the red suit, he is acting as the Daredevil. He has decided his lot in this world, and it feels like the Kingpin is still trying to figure out who he is in this world. And I feel like I think by the end of the series we're going to see the Kingpin.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like this is sort of a consistent across all of the Marvel stories. If you look at every like first like movie or TV series in Marvel, Iron Man, what was the first person he had to come up against? It was sort of an evil version of himself. What does an evil person do when they get the technology of like a mech?
Yeah.
What in Incredible Hulk, like we were talking about the Harlem business.
Yeah.
What it like ignore Ang Lee's Hulk. But like that first Incredible Hulk story, what's the first thing he goes up against? It's
Abomination.
But I was trying to remember the character. Human guy's name. Blomsky. And then like look, even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you look at it, like what does Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have to go up against? A super secret organization that is evil versus their super secret organization that is quote unquote good.
Yeah.
And so Daredevil and Kingpin are going to be this two sides of the same coin. They want to make this part of this, they want to make this city, they want to make Hell's Kitchen specifically a better place. What does that mean is very different, and one is going to be going through a criminal route, like whatever it takes, doesn't matter who has to get hurt. If the city becomes a better place, that's the end game. Versus Daredevil, I will do this by doing the right thing.
Yeah,
still hurting a lot of people in his way.
Well, I mean, and I think that's the thing. It is very grey. It becomes a more and more softer and softer line. Between because he has to become something quite deadly and perhaps awful, really, in order to I don't know, rescue his city in a sense, but yeah.
A devil.
Absolutely. They both believe in that absolute retribution. Like both of them have that side. It's just the way they go about it is very different. Like what we saw with what happened to you when he got really upset. I feel like that scene
upset.
He snapped, right? And I feel like that scene was such a great way to set up him as an antagonist, because it's like, okay, like Daredevil snaps and bad guys die, right? Like that's what happens. This guy snaps and somebody gets decapitated by a car door. Like that was an insane scene and like a really great way to set up a character. I mean, he's a bad guy in my mind now. There's no redeeming quality for Kingpin after seeing that.
But at the same time, we see him interact with Vanessa. By the way, I'm obsessed with Vanessa. What an awesome character she is. She's like this powerful woman who's like willing to say what she wants, like, and is like willing to tell a guy who's clearly a dangerous man, like whatever she thinks about him. And that kind of line that Kingpin gives, where it's like, a woman who you can buy is not a woman worth having, is an amazing line. And that entire interaction, he's wearing all black, she's wearing all white. And I don't think it's like good and evil. I think it's more like chess pieces, like just the way they interact with each other. It's like moves against moves. Like I think it's just like an interesting character. And that entire dinner date that they were on, just like seeing how like Kingpin's a real person. He's not just like, I'll take over all of Hell's Kitchen. Like, he's a real guy.
Yeah. Well, we got in that scene, and this is like, they sort of skip over it a little bit, but there's definitely a sense of his backstory and like what has made him this way. I think he really just has some really big mommy issues.
Yeah.
As he says, his mom, like, he grew up in the city, and then at like 12, his mom sent him to live on the farm, right?
Yeah.
And so like he sees like he like needs to make this city a better place so that his mom will let him stay.
Yeah. I think that's it for sure. And before we get to the conclusion of the episode, let's really quickly just hit on Ben and Karen's story just as quickly as we can. We see that Karen is still investigating what's happened to her and the global conglomerate. She goes to an auction, and Ben finds her there and says that she's in a lot of danger. That there are people there who are spying just on her, not getting auctions. How do we feel about the Ben Karen kind of interaction, the story that we get in this episode?
It's good. It's a nice piece. Like, it's setting it up. They didn't do anything too big with it, but it's setting up a nice.
It's a good little side.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to break up everything that's so, like, well, obviously it's a serious, but everything that's so immediately serious to something that's kind of being set up for a later episode.
Something that's violent as opposed to something that's like espionage.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't all have to be about breaking bones in half and out of chests.
And eyes.
And crushing skulls.
So much crush.
There's a lot of crush.
The Russians have a man who's spying on the Kingpin, or Wilson Fisk as he is in this show, and he tells the brothers that he's at a restaurant, and the brothers decide that they have to do a show of faith, that they're still trying to get the Daredevil and beat him. They wisely decide to use the cooler-headed brother, and we see him.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, that's true. And we see him go into this restaurant and embarrass the Kingpin. I was like, oh, this guy's dead. Like, immediately I was like, oh, this is a dead guy.
I definitely I got a sense of like there was like almost like a panic coming from you in that moment. Is that like sort of what you were playing in that scene?
I mean, I think just the notion that he can be brushed off that quickly, kind of thing. It's like, okay, you know, here's a last chance to kind of reach out, sort of thing, and just the fact that there's no connection whatsoever, and that's, you know, so which I think is why there's like this kind of relief in the limo ride. It was like, oh, okay, good, because we can talk about this stuff, you know. I mean, Fisk says he doesn't know much about this world and wine and whatever, but you know, we think it's a good bottle or something to that effect. I think, you know, it's like clearly Anatoly knows far less of how this cultured.
Do you think Anatoly, I mean, when you were playing it, I felt like a huge sense of dread. Do you think Anatoly felt any of that?
I mean, I think there's a degree of that, but the thing is, we have to make amends here. We have to make amends. It's like we're messed, we're stuffed, if we, you know. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of desperation for sure when he's, you know, just brushed aside, because like nobody brushes us aside like that, you know. It's like, really. So I think there's I mean, I really wanted to be quite brutal with Wesley coming down, you know, and I had to kind of like reel it in, because I was really like pushing it. It was like, okay, it's a little less maybe. Because they're not used to people being under anyone else's thumb. Yeah. You know, so this is kind of new territory, but it's like, come on, it's an earnest appeal. You know, but I mean, to be just sort of brushed off like, you know, like that, I think that's where it's like, what the, you know, I think it's more confusion perhaps than panic, you know. I think there's a little more anger coming out.
You seemed relatively unaffected by the 10-20 guys that got up out of the chair very quickly, just to be, and it seemed really honest. It wasn't like, well, I don't want to talk to these guys, I want to talk to this guy. Yeah. It seemed very straight honest and straightforward. Yeah. No, I know you guys. I was one of you guys. I don't care. You're the one I want to talk to.
It's like, whatever. It's a restaurant. Who cares? But obviously for Fisk, that's a big deal. Embarrassed, you know.
Totally. And you see everybody in the restaurant stand up, and at that point, I had no clue that they were in there by themselves, and I was like, oh, they are all his guys. Was that like intimidating? I mean, did your character think that was intimidating? Did he like feel something kind of coming from right there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a little bit unexpected, because he's just makes a beeline for him. Yeah. It's interesting, like what percentage of the customers were actually real customers? Fisk's crew.
And then we see you get decapitated in a very brutal fight.
There's a whimsical conversation, monologue.
That's right.
It's like, what the is it? Oh no, he's still going.
Yeah.
I don't understand but are we meet? Oh, we're meeting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's much as Anatoly gets from that.
Right. About smoke in the past.
Yeah. Now that I've got his attention, I can't wait to actually talk to him. Great. Yeah. What's happening? What's next?
Passenger side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it just like just do it?
The biggest part about that fight too is that you're not like, your character is not like a little like wussy guy. You survived Russian prison. You shanked your way out with a rib, and I mean, from what I've gathered, is that Kingpin is supposed to be this larger-than-life man, and they were even like nervous casting him because nobody was really big enough. Yeah. And essentially, kind of like threw you around in the sense of, wow, that's insane. It shows his power as a character and his power as a villain. I thought that was such a really powerful scene, just to show his character and who he is as the Kingpin. I didn't expect that to happen at all. I thought there would be more of a fight.
I mean, Vincent's it's a big fight though.
It is. Yeah. It is a big fight.
That is a long, you know, in terms of, I mean, like, you know, hand-to-hand sequences where clearly, you know, Vincent's a big dude. I mean, he's playing a big dude. Yeah. You know? I mean, I get the crap kicked out of me and still kind of manage to get up, a number of times until the very end.
And you probably weren't expecting it either.
Well, I think the big surprise, you slashed him across.
Well, yeah, and then there's like,
and nothing happened. Yeah, and then he breaks your arm.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it like? How much prep went into that fight?
We rehearsed for an afternoon. Yeah. Just that sequence for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Vincent got stuck in and stuff. I mean, he's like, yeah, okay, cool, you know, and I'm like, he's a strong guy. He's a naturally strong guy, you know. I mean, he really is. Yeah. I mean, he was tossing me on like mats and stuff, you know, that like throwback. Yeah. Kind of good. I was like, okay, man. It's like I'm like landing and yeah.
How long does a fight scene like that take to shoot? Is it like one day, or does that have to spill into multiple production days?
I mean, we were on nights. I mean, I think almost the whole night. Most of the night was doing that. Yeah, I mean, gorgeous location. You've got it wasn't Brooklyn Bridge, but it was. It's just gorgeous, and the water's there, and then you've got the city behind, and it's just like, I mean, it's just stupidly beautiful. It's like, like we're getting there, like, wow, it's a picturesque place to die.
In the most brutal way possible.
What was it like watching that scene back for the first time?
I mean, and I have only watched it once, to be honest. So. I didn't see it on the day, so I mean, the first time I saw it was when I watched it on Netflix. But it's brutal. It's brutal. I can't get the missus to, she's like, I mean, it's always, what has been some more gory way to spend.
Squishy.
Yeah.
Sound design.
It's what I find hard to watch is just the relentless. Because I think maybe it's written as a few times or something, and and like he's just so into it doing it, it just goes on and on and on, and I'm going like his head would have come up by now. It's like, oh God, please, it's
And for most of this episode, you're speaking Russian.
Yeah.
How did you have like a coach with you?
There was a coach. Nico is Russian as well.
Yeah.
My brother, in the show. I mean, I've played Russians before, so I speak a smattering of Russian. But, that was definitely a challenge, doing that. Yeah.
Like just doing action sequences and speaking another.
That's
language.
okay. That's okay because it's like a few, there's a few phrases kind of thing. I think like the hospital scene was an interesting one where it's just like all Russian, or you're doing like sort of a 3-page scene in the taxi rank kind of thing. Where it was English, and then you have like a page and a half of Russian to finish it off. And then you're doing a master of that. And it's like, so you got to be on your toes. But it's fun. It's a fun challenge for sure.
Absolutely. We have a question off of Twitter. Matt Santiago wants to know what your favorite fight scene was out of the series so far.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I tweeted Philip, the coordinator. I mean, the hallway is just it was just so crazy good. Mm-hmm. I think all the fight stuff just looks, like even like between those cargo thingies, and it's like it feels like sort of parkour mixed in with just all sorts of cool stuff. But the hallway is great because it is legit a one take thing. I was like, I think they kind of like it's not. It's so I mean that's just it's too cool. Too cool. I love close quarter stuff. And I was saying, I mean, like Casino Royale. I think there was a nice scene in there, where I was like, that was my favorite kind of close quarters stuff. But I mean, this kind of takes the cake now.
It just feels really intimate when it's that close quarters. Like the violence and like the physical like impact of all of the fighting. It feels like it's really right there with you.
And to see also your kind of your hero kind of. Man, it's like, really? Are we still alive? These guys keep, there's like another wave of them sort of thing. So it's nice to see that he's not like super fresh and we're done. There's like, there's the humanity. There's a humanity within the, superhero, if you will, and there's the humanity within a lot of the characters, even like Fisk and stuff, the vulnerability. So I love the fact that, and exactly like we're saying with like Rosario's character, where like in the trunk fighting away, and you're like, God, that's so hectic. It's like okay, so she's in the trunk, we can hear her and stuff, but it's like, oh my man, it's just it's unforgiving and you can't turn away.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think on that note, we got to start closing up shop, guys.
That last big line that we left off the episode with, it'll start a war.
Start a war.
I'm counting on it.
And also really quickly, Mr. Potter to get him a new suit. That is also part of the Marvel universe. The Gladiator is kind of like a good guy / bad guy who just makes suits for people and like is a specialist with armories and stuff like that. So maybe we'll see the Gladiator later on making suits for people, possibly a devil suit, something like that. Before we sign off, Gideon Emery, where can we find you? What do you got going on for yourself?
You can find me at Gideon Emery on Twitter.
Awesome.
I tweet far too often. I'm always on Twitter. I don't know. I feel like Twitter is my extended family in some sense. So I'm Facebook. There's a fan page there. It's just me. GideonEmery.com usually has stuff posted of what's happening, and look out for E&N with Ed Newsbit.
Yeah,
which is
Friend of yours, Newsbed?
He's a friend of mine.
Yeah,
it's my alter ego.
Yeah, we want to. You
I
tell us
look
about
like
it
I've been injected with
before.
something. That's a dodgy freeze frame.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like a cable news show parody where I find the stories of the week and we just kind of play them out and it writes itself.
Yeah, that's
News
awesome.
is just
With a very British bent. Yeah.
you can't make up the stuff that's going on in the world.
Definitely.
Seems like it's serialized, but it's not.
Awesome. Last thoughts and where we can find you?
Last thought is we're at 5 eye injuries because we're counting the doors half of one.
Great.
All
4
right,
and
just
2
so you guys
halves.
know,
Yeah.
4 and 2 halves. We're averaging about an eye injury and a half an episode. Anyways,
Sure.
you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Jamie S. Elias. Thanks, guys.
I just can't wait. I'm gonna go home and watch 5 and 6 now.
Sure.
You guys can tweet at me at that Zach Wilson, ThatZachWilson, and also here at AfterBuzz on the Grimm and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after shows.
Awesome.
Chills. The end of episode 4 literally gave me chills. I had to stop. I had to take a seat back and be like, what the heck? Like, Kingpin is legitimately one of the only Marvel villains that I am afraid of. 100% afraid of. And I can't wait to see where the character goes.
Him and Stiltman.
I mean cinematic, but yes. And you can find me on Twitter at SoapboxMark.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Klein. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1, JessKlein, the number 1. You can see me doing live comedy all around town. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Gideon Emery, for coming in.
Thank you for
Thanks for
coming
having
in.
us.
Giving us some insight on the show. It was super cool. Guys, I can't wait to see you next week. I'm so excited for the show. I find myself watching the show every week just going, I can't believe this is happening to me watching this. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.